Well, let's talk about gym equipment. And what's your favourite piece of gym equipment?
Oh wow. It's probably, I'm going to say our body weight.
Oh.
And I'm going to say our body weight because I don't think enough personal trainers respect it.
No.
And use it. So for me, like, we can look at a client and go, right, I'm going to teach a client how to bench press. That's great. But they better be really good at a press up first. And when I talk about a press up, I'm talking about full body tension, being able to pin in the scapula, being able to recruit the chest properly, being able to actually have the shoulder sat in its socket rather than dropping forward, not have the back sagging, not have the neck like coming in. Before a client can do all that, they should not be bench pressing. Just the same as, before they should be doing a squat, it'd probably be important for them to maybe look at like a lunge and then a body weight squat and again progress it. And obviously there's different tools we can use to program that. Like, I'm a big fan of a goblet squat to teach how a client would kind of like sit back into it. Would I do a lat pull down instead of a chin up? Probably yes, because there's going to be a training stimulus element. But like, essentially, a lot of people need to learn these movements with their body, like a plank. There's not many people that even do a plank properly. Like, they're just on their elbows, sagging around, like just trying to transiently hold it. So I think people can get a massive amount of mileage, and I think it's a hugely satisfactory thing to be able to really handle your own body weight.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
I think it's cool.
It's cool.
Exactly. How many people do we aspire to physically that have mastered their body weight?
Yeah, I mean, they look awesome for a start.
100%.
But yeah, if you see someone, doing the crucifix or whatever, you're like, whoa, that's good.
Badass. Exactly.
I saw, I was at Hove Lagoon, and I was taking my 8-month-old outfit in the buggy, and I saw where the bars are, like the gym bars, and she was asleep in the buggy, so I thought, I can't play around these bars. And as I got over there was these two guys, and they were, well, I mean, I'm in a happy relationship and I'm straight, but I was thinking, these are hot, these guys, and they were ripped, and they were doing these muscle ups. It was in the middle of the summer, we were getting that great weather, and they were tan at the tops off. They probably had like 3% body fat, and I was like, and I sort of got within about 3 meters, and I thought, no, I'm out my league here, and just sort of turned around and thought, we'll do this another day, Betsy.
You could have got some free coaching.
Well, do you know what? As I went away, I thought, oh, John, you absolute wuss. You should have gone back and just, asked for some tips. And, I could have been, 6 months later, I could have looked like them. But
there you go.
I bottled it. But my point was, it's impressive stuff. But totally agree, that foundation stuff. I wished as a youngster, the magazines that I was attracted to and read was all about people doing that sort of stuff, but it wasn't. It was, Men's Health and Flex magazine, and I wanted to look like Arnie. So in your head, you're like, right, let's get down the gym and start lifting some weights. But I wish I'd done a good, solid, 12 months, 6 months foundation of body weight stuff and learning to goblet squat.
For me, it's also a respect thing, that we're teaching someone to respect their body on all levels. So we can talk about that from a health and nutritional perspective, but movement, you've got to respect what you've got first before you go, I'm going to add a dumbbell to this hand, I'm going to add a barbell to this hand. If the hand and the body can't handle itself, then it's like we're jumping way ahead of where that person's already at. And there's so much that you can do with body weight. Like, a trainer will quite often stand there and go, right, I've got press up, I've got squat, I've got lunge, I could do a twisty thing. But actually, as soon as you learn true diversity with body weight, your repertoire then becomes so much more when you add a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a barbell or a bag, kind of thing.
Trying to run before we can walk, basically. 100%. Brilliant answer. I love that answer. The body weight thing. Okay, what's your least favourite?
Probably a fixed barbell. I think, don't get me wrong, there's a massive need for it, but if we look at the general population, a lot of them have pretty significant movement issues, like massive scoliosis in the spine, really tight hips, unbalanced joints, and having something that's fixed is quite often not the best way for them to move. So I'd probably quite often rather them have just like a kettlebell, or a sandbag or some bands that's going to just allow their joints to move a little bit freely. You can look at something like the shoulder press with a barbell. Well, if their shoulder's not moving properly, it's going to be a lot better to have a dumbbell, because if one shoulder's more anteriorly rotated than the other, they're constantly going to get an incorrect movement pattern. So I think it's allowing the body to move as naturally as possible, so we don't create friction or pain or anything like that.
Okay, that's interesting. I've got Mike Boyle's book on functional training, and I read it a long time ago, but I think I read it at the wrong time because it wasn't resonating, like we talked earlier about different books. Read it again recently, and I was all over it. I was like, yes, this is brilliant. Totally changed how I was training. Straight in the gym, everything was down to working unilaterally, dumbbells, and ditch the barbell work, and I agree, big fan of all that.
Personally and I'm only 31, but my joints are a lot better when I train unilaterally. So I'll get kettlebell rack, and I'll do like heavy split squats. I'll do like overhead split squats. I'll do single RDLs. I'll carry a weight with one hand overhead, and I do feel my body feels a lot better. It's like it just doesn't put as much really heavy torsion through one particular joint, and I just like that.
Yeah, and it carries over onto so much, doesn't it? I mean, obviously there's links between how much you can barbell back squat and vertical jump and stuff, but whether you actually, especially if you're in like a contact sport, if you've got the armour in place for the contact sport, I think the dumbbell stuff and the unilateral stuff's probably better for that, isn't it?
Yeah. Just to chip in there, I think I'd also, as a trainer, I'd want to assess or think critically about. So, for example, you take the back squat. If you try to get a client to back squat and they're just really not back squatting very well, their movement's inefficient, like you can take 10, 15, 20 minutes to warm up a joint, loosen some stuff off, all to get them into that position where you could have spent that 20 minutes doing some walking lunges to open up the hips, then got a kettlebell, taught them how to swing, and then bring the kettlebell up into a goblet squat, and they would have already efficiently moved into the squat a lot more naturally through that movement sequence, and they've already burnt more calories, they've learned how to control themselves and an object. And I think when we look at programming in training, we often hold these exercises as king, like you've got to deadlift, you've got to back squat, you've got to do this, and actually it might be a really inefficient way to get someone to move, because the chances are most clients have zero need to back squat 100 kilos. I have zero need to back squat 100 kilos. What I have a need for is to look good naked, because I'm like any human being. I want to perform well in my sport, I don't want to get injured, and I want to be kind of like functionally strong. I want to be able to move and do lots of different things. So actually, when we look at my goals, it becomes a great thing for me not to back squat, especially as my hips are quite tight. So for me to back squat really well, I have to spend quite a bit of time opening up my hips. Well, actually, if I get a kettlebell, do some swings, jump into a split squat, then go into some walking lunges, and then maybe look at a squat movement that's a lot heavier and stuff, I've already created more training volume, more efficiency, more calorie burn, more variety.
It's almost like, as we're going through this conversation, we're building up the layers of a cake. It's like the base layer is our body weight, the calisthenics type training, learning how to move efficiently. The next layer is now, let's bring in some dumbbell work unilaterally, building that joint stability, learn the movement patterns even more, before we even start thinking about some of the top layers like Olympic lifting, the power lifts, that sort of stuff. Yeah,
and then to fit into that, I quite quickly would want most trainers to try and get their clients to improve their work capacity. So I see a lot of trainers sort of shying away from cardio work, but if someone's quite unfit, it's really important to just have a good healthy heart that can go for a long period of time. So going out for a run, a swim, a row, I think it's really important, because once you start to add training volume onto a client, it's going to test their cardiovascular capacity. I'm a very fit guy in terms of a lot of repeated running, because I play rugby as a scrum half. I'm constantly going back and forth. So in the gym, and I post quite often my training programs online, people will go, wow, you do a lot in your training programs, but it's because my repeated cardiovascular or my metabolic capacity is very high. So I can do a bench press into a chin up, into something else, into a carry really happily and easily without getting gassed, and then do it again a minute later because I've got really good repeated cardiovascular ability. So how can we improve our clients' fitness very quickly? It does have to have a cardio base in there.
Yeah.
And if you were a strength and conditioning coach in a football club, one of your first things would be to look at cardiovascular base. Every athlete does it. Every athlete programming, but we don't do that with our clients because we're like, oh, I want them to get stronger and get in the gym and they want to build muscle. That's great, but a cardiovascular base helps everyone.
Yeah.
So I don't want a trainer to kind of shy away from that and not kind of think about it because they're thinking about gym programming. Sometimes just getting out for a run can be the best thing for a client, physically and mentally.
It's getting you outdoors for a start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether, sometimes if you're stuck in the gym, a lot of gyms now, they're underground, aren't they? Don't have windows. And if you work in that gym, you're in a place that ironically is supposed to be a healthy environment, but actually, is it? Just get outside.